In the dead of night, a frail boy sat by the candle's dim glow, scribbling in his leather-bound diary. His tiny fingers trembled. The words he wrote would never be read in his time. My cough worsens today. The blood comes again. But Father's kingdom must remain in the faith I set for it. He was not merely a boy. He was King Edward VI, the son of the mighty Henry VIII, yet weaker than any peasant boy in his realm. Born amidst blood, dying amidst blood, his life was a silent scream in the cacophony of Tudor power. His mother, Jane Seymour, died months after giving birth to him. Some said he brought England hope. Others whispered he brought England doom. His midwives feared for him, for his first cry was not loud. The royal physician wrote in Latin, "Vita tenuis est." His life is thin. As Edward grew, his bones remained like hollow reeds, easily breaking under the burden of kingship, but his mind was sharper than many men twice his age. At 9, he read Greek theological manuscripts. At 10, he debated Protestant reforms with Archbishop Cranmer, but at 11, he coughed blood for the first time. The court's hidden fear was never spoken aloud. The boy they called England's precious pearl was cracking from within. In his secret diary, found centuries later behind a false panel in Hampton Court, he wrote, "They kneel before me, but their hearts kneel to others. I am but a crown upon a boy's head." His greatest fear was not death. It was insignificance, and history proved his fear true. October 12th, 1537. Hampton Court Palace. A scream pierced the silent dawn of Hampton Court. It was not the scream of a triumphant mother, it was the scream of pain, exhaustion, and death lurking close. Queen Jane Seymour lay pale and trembling upon blood-soaked linen. The midwives exchanged fearful glances as the royal physician whispered hurried Latin prayers under his breath. Domine miserere nobis. For hours she struggled, her body weakened by infection, her face shining with cold sweat. Finally, a faint cry emerged. The child's voice, weak and thin, broke the tension in the chamber. Everyone exhaled. He was alive, but only barely. The midwife whispered to the nurse, "He is too small. See how his chest barely rises." They wrapped him in silken cloth, embroidered with Tudor roses, and presented him to the dying queen. Jane smiled, her eyes glassy with fever, and murmured, "My son, my precious Edward, my little prince." Within days, Jane was dead. Some said it was the childbed fever. Others whispered that fate itself claimed her life in payment for a son. The newborn prince was baptized with grand ceremony in the chapel royal. Trumpets rang, nobles bowed, and choristers sang, "Te Deum laudamus." But behind the gold and splendor there was dread. Henry VIII, though triumphant with a male heir at last, paced the halls restlessly. He ordered the best physicians, herbalists, and even astrologers to predict his son's destiny. One astrologer, John Redman, wrote cryptically in his notes, "He is born under Mercury in Scorpio, quick of mind, frail of body. Fire consumes air." The court nurses noticed his constant coughing fits, his refusal to suckle easily, and the blue tinge to his lips when cold winds blew through Hampton Court's draughty chambers. Lady Margaret Bryan, his lady governess, confided secretly to Archbishop Cranmer, "My lord, he is a sweet child, but he is not strong. His bones are delicate as glass. We dare not tell his majesty lest wrath fall upon us for speaking truth." In secret, midwives used ancient herbal treatments banned by the royal physician for being superstitious woman's lore. They brewed teas of ground ivy for lung cleansing, white horehound boiled with honey for cough, red clover blossoms steeped in goat milk to strengthen blood. At night, they burned juniper and mugwort to cleanse evil spirits from the nursery, whispering, "For bone and breath, for marrow and mind, strengthen this child whom kingship binds." But the physicians scoffed at such witches' brews. Instead, they bled him lightly with leeches when fevers rose, believing bad blood must be removed to prevent humoral imbalance. Edward's cries during these bleedings echoed down the stone halls, haunting the servants who passed by. Some whispered, "How can such a frail creature be heir to mighty Henry's throne?" Despite his son's weakness, Henry VIII declared, "This is my prince. England is secured." He showed him to the nobles in the great hall, holding him high with a grin that belied his secret terror, that his line would still end without a living male heir. Each day, he demanded updates. Does he feed? Does he grow? Does he cough? Is his chest clear today? If the physician hesitated, Henry's eyes darkened. One court doctor, Thomas Wendy, wrote, "His Majesty's wrath over the prince's health is a storm no man wishes upon himself." The king ordered tapestries removed to prevent damp air. Fires burned day and night. The child was wrapped in ermine-lined blankets and held away from windows. Outside the palace walls, common folk spoke of omens. A comet streaked across the sky days before his birth. A hawthorn tree near Hampton Court split in half by lightning on his naming day. Astrologers at Cambridge University cast his horoscope, a ruler before manhood ends. A kingdom reformed by a boy king, his life a candle flickering in storm. This prop Hisi spread in whispers among monks and Catholic loyalists. They mocked the king's miracle heir, certain God would never bless Henry's broken church with lasting peace. By age 3, Edward could read simple Latin prayers. His governess boasted, "He recites the Pater Noster with no error." But as he grew in mind, his body remained thin. He often fell ill with fevers. Winters were the worst. Chronic chest infections plagued him. A court musician, William Byrd, wrote in a letter, "As I played the virginals for him, he coughed so violently I feared he would vomit blood. Yet he smiled, asking me to continue the tune." The boy king was learning early that to be royal meant to hide pain behind smiles. Among the nobles, hushed conversations took place in candle-lit chambers. Lord Russell, "If he dies, the king has no other heir, then the bastard girls remain." Earl of Hertford, "Pray he lives, or England will drown in Catholic blood again." Lady Elizabeth Seymour, "He is a rosebud in frost, beautiful, but doomed." Edward was rarely allowed to play with other children due to infection fears. His only companions were tutors, scribes, and occasionally his half-sister Elizabeth. Elizabeth later wrote, "He was so clever, with a memory sharper than mine, but he tired easily and coughed much. He loved riddles, especially theological ones. Years later, a hidden diary page was found, written shakily in early script. I asked God today to make me strong like Father, but I still cough. The nurse says not to cry. I shall be king. Kings do not cry. The nurse rocked him gently, humming an old English lullaby. Sleep, my child, and peace attend thee all through the night. Guardian angels God will send thee all through the night. Edward's thin chest rose and fell with labored breaths. His eyelids fluttered. His small hands clutched the corner of his wool blanket. In sleep, he was neither prince nor frail boy. He was simply a child, dreaming of a world far away from crowns, thrones, and hidden terrors lurking within his blood. The cold February air bit at the gathered nobles and clergy outside Westminster Abbey. Inside, the grand hall was aglow with golden candlelight, banners fluttering, and the scent of incense heavy in the air. A frail boy, no more than 9 years old, knelt before the Archbishop of Canterbury. His chest was thin beneath the rich velvet robes, his pale hands trembling slightly as the crown was lifted and placed upon his head. This was Edward VI, crowned King of England. But in that moment, behind the pageantry, lay a burden far heavier than the golden crown, the weight of a kingdom torn by religion, politics, and uncertainty. The Archbishop intoned prayers in Latin, the choir raised their voices in sacred hymns, and the nobles swore their fealty. Yet, many in the room whispered doubts. How could this fragile child hold power in a land where adults schemed for every scrap? One courtier recalled later. The boy's eyes were bright but scared. He looked more like a scholar than a monarch. Behind the scenes, Duke of Somerset, Edward's uncle, was already preparing to seize control as Lord Protector, a regent ruling in the boy king's name. Centuries later, historians found a secret diary page dated the day after the coronation. Yesterday, the crown felt heavy, not because of its gold, but because of the eyes watching me. I am a king, but I am still a boy. They bow, but I wonder who truly rules. This small but powerful confession revealed Edward's quiet awareness of his fragile position. Edward's uncle, Edward Seymour, Duke of Somerset, quickly consolidated power. As Lord Protector, he controlled the government, making laws and leading armies, all in the king's name. But Somerset's rule was controversial. His lavish spending and military campaigns against Scotland drained the treasury. The young king, though physically weak, wrote stern notes to Somerset ur autamad, jing restraint. In one surviving letter, Dear Uncle, please do not waste the realm's wealth on needless war. Our people suffer. Edward's tutors immersed him in theology, languages, and politics. He learned Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, rare for boys of his age. In his private study, he pored over Protestant writings, shaping his religious views. One tutor, Richard Cox, recalled, Edward was eager, questioning, and deeply pious, but he also struggled with the physical toll his illnesses took. Edward's uncle, Thomas Seymour, Somerset's brother, coveted power and was accused of plotting against the Protector. Despite Edward's affection for Thomas, Somerset imprisoned and executed him for treason. This devastated the boy king, who later scribbled in his diary, "My heart is torn. Though he was a traitor, he was my uncle and friend. Why must kingship demand such cruelty?" Under Somerset's guidance, but inspired by Edward's own beliefs, the English Reformation accelerated. The Book of Common Prayer was introduced, and Protestantism gained ground, but Edward privately struggled. In hidden prayers he wrote, "Lord, guide my heart through the storm of faith and crown, that I may lead thy flock." Behind the throne, nobles jockeyed for favor. The ambitious John Dudley, Earl of Warwick, rose as Somerset's rival. Edward's diary hints at his frustration. "I see the Lord's smiles hide daggers. I am a king by name, but their wills bind me." Though crowned king, Edward's health continued to fail. He endured coughing fits and night sweats, but kept his illness secret from many. His personal physician's notes reveal, "The king's constitution is frail. Blood-tinged sputum observed. Yet he insists on courtly duties." Edward VI was no ordinary monarch. His youth and frailty masked a sharp mind and fierce determination. But the crown he wore was both a blessing and a siege, a symbol of authority that few truly respected. His diary's final words of this year echo his inner conflict. "A king alone in a sea of power and treachery. May God grant me strength